So today on the channel, welcome back everybody. We have a phenomenal interview going down. We have Sylvia, the CEO of Defiance ETFs. This is huge. This has been in the works for a while. I've been talking with Ari for a while about this, and I'm very excited for some info. And we have some massive news about a very hyped up, very anticipated ETF. So MST, this is the newest weekly paying dividend ETF, and it's very interesting. Again, I'm very, very excited, but we have a couple questions. We're going to go over a few things. We had some commenter questions as well. But first, Sylvia, I would love just a little bit of background on yourself for people to get to know you a little bit.
So thanks for having me, Spencer. First of all, I'm honored to be here with you. So my entire career has kind of been in like finance, trading, equity derivatives. I've been with Defiance for quite a long time. So we actually launched in 2018. And at that time, we came out to be the first disruptor in thematic ETFs. We launched a 5G and a quantum ETF, and we made them super inexpensive. We really wanted to capture that next gen of traders that thinks technology is more than IBM and a stock select sector index and things like that. And from there, we really grew as a company. We launched a bunch of funds that have income products on them. We have single name leverage funds. Now we have single name leverage funds with options on them. And yeah, super excited. But I've been in this business for a long time, and I love ETFs. I love trading. I love markets.
Awesome. That's brilliant. That's great to know. I appreciate that. So first question is, what was the inspiration or reasoning behind the creation of ticker MST?
Yeah, great question. So I think, one thing that has changed a lot in the ETF space, and I've been kind of around long enough where it used to be a little bit different, and end client was very much always an institution. You were always talking to like a wirehouse advisor or else an RIA or a hedge fund or things like that. And I think post-COVID, there's just been, even before that, but really, I think post-COVID, there was just this massive growth of, new investors, young investors coming into the market and doing what you're doing right now, right? Sharing information, talking about things, trying to figure out, hey, what's a good product? What's a bad product? What's this company? Let's break this all down and benefit from this stuff that these people are doing. And so I think with that, we started following all this stuff and listening to all you guys. And it's just really that the investors out there, the retail investors, the people who buy our products, were always talking about two things. They were talking about leverage ETFs, and they were talking about income ETFs. So basically ETFs that are generating some kind of income from the use of options. So we just kept reading this. Everyone seems to love income. Everyone seems to love options. Why don't we marry the two and they can have this baby called MST? And it's basically a single name levered ETF with an option strategy for income on top of it.
Awesome. That's what I was thinking for a while. I made a prediction early on because one of my very popular playlists on my channel was about the first weekly payers, right? And I said, these have gained a lot of traction. They're all over X or Twitter. They're all over all social medias. People are talking about them. And I said, I bet there's going to be a lot of them. And so I made the mistake of saying I'll invest $100 into each of them. And now there's more and more and more and more that keep coming out. And so I'm stuck. I'm going to still do it because it's amazing. I love tracking the progress, but it's awesome. I love hearing that retail, is a factor. You guys are thinking about what
huge factor for us. We changed to weeklies on our other funds. You guys were out there saying we want weekly, change them. So we did that.
Excellent. Love to hear it. Let's see. So specifically with Defiance, what would you say sets you guys apart? You kind of talked about this on the intro. What sets you apart from other ETFs, more traditional ETF companies, I would say?
Yeah, I think we have a mix, right? We have a mixed bag. So you have thematic ETFs, and those are kind of good for everyone. They're long-term buy and hold products. Again, if you're interested in quantum computing and you think that's going to play out in the next 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it might be, you buy a thematic ETF, you hold it forever. It's, you kind of get the appreciation there. But then we also have products that are actively managed, and they have derivatives, and those derivatives give you things like leverage. So we have like a robust offering of single name leverage ETFs. So 2 times levered. MicroStrategy is probably our most popular one, but we also have Riot, we have super microcomputer, a whole HIMS, a whole bunch of them. And then we have these weekly paying income products on kind of these like high income target funds that pay 20 to 30% more annualized on the broad-based indices. And so we just have a suite of products for the active trader, the income acorn gatherer, and the buy and hold forever.
Awesome. And I love that. I love the diversification. That's key for me. And it's so cool. I only recently really started looking into leverage, and the leveraged options, it's amazing because in the long run, if you believe stuff's going to go up, and our trends have shown, the stock market typically goes up, that using leverage, it clicked in my brain one day. I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm pumped. I'm really happy about that. So speaking on leverage, what was the reasoning behind utilizing leverage for this ETF?
It's just as you said, right? I think that you have a lot of stocks and markets and sectors that they tend to move up, right? But with levered ETFs, it's super important to know that these funds are rebalanced often, and really trend is your friend, right? So if the market is trending upward, you're going to outperform whatever the leverage point is over that period of time because compounding is working in your favor, right? So if the market is up 5% every day for a couple of days, you're going to be up more than 2 times that, right? You'll be up over 20% because of compounding working in favor. But what's important to understand is that like range bound volatility can make these perform, decay quickly. And, same thing to the downside, you are 2x, right? So there's more risk, but there's higher reward. So the reason we put leverage on it is because I think MicroStrategy, volatile stocks lend themselves well to levered ETFs. So that might seem counterintuitive, given that I just said range-bound volatility is the worst thing, right, for levered ETFs. But the reason that is because you have short-term tactical traders that are picking on these trends for the period of time that they're there, right? So they might think like, okay, for the next 5 to 10 days, MicroStrategy is going to rally because of tariff news or whatever, pick your reason. Mm-hmm. Then they'll use that levered ETF and really express that high conviction trade and view on that for that short period of time. And then they'll kind of take their gains and unwind it and wait for the next trend and whatnot. So that's kind of what we see with these.
And I love that. I love it particularly myself. I am just like a smaller time retail trader, right? And the power of leverage opens up an insane possibility, right? Yes, you have more risk with it. I'm on the younger side, I would say, of the average age of investors and whatnot. So I'm a little more okay with risk. I'm happy with it, even in a lot of circumstances. So the ability to utilize that is, I think, phenomenal, especially as we're still moving in this age of ETFs. So that's great to hear. Do we have a ballpark yield for what MST will provide, or do we have to see some trading prior in order to know based off the price of MSTR?
Yeah, I think so. You're going to get yield in a couple of different ways. So first, it will be directly correlated to the IV, to the volatility, right? So if you look at something like MSTY, it should be in that neighborhood, right? Because you're basically, whatever income you generate is based on the daily volatility on the underlying stock. So, but you could potentially get a little bit more, right? Because you're also getting the performance on the leverage if the market is up. And then there could also be, kind of like trading gains from the day-to-day rebalances on the fund. So remains to be seen, but I would expect that the income that you receive is close to, because the options are on half of the position, right? Because so the leverage is 200%, but the call options or credit spreads are actually on half of the position. So it'd be pretty similar to a product that has high income on MicroStrategy, could put it that way.
Excellent. Oh, that's cool. I love these newer style, like so much I feel is changing, even since I started YouTube a couple of years ago. And it's really cool. I love seeing a new age and where we're going into. And this is kind of a broader question. We did touch on this a little bit. How much power do retail investors hold in regard to what new ETFs are being created? Because we have seen some older style companies, I would say, that don't really flex. They kind of do what they want to, and they do what's with their model. Defiance doesn't seem to be that way. Do retail investors hold more power in how Defiance decides what to do?
I would say all customers hold equal power when it comes to us anyway. Every customer is a much appreciated one, but I would say that we're very much attuned to the younger generation, to people like yourself, because we know that, first of all, $60 trillion, if not, actually, it's probably more than that now, but of wealth is going to, trickle down to, millennial, and then Gen Z, and then beta, and then alpha, beta, even like the younger people that I've worked with over the years, or the interns that I've had that are like in their freshman year of college, like they're not buying the classic tech stocks. They care about the super cool quantum supercomputing, and AI. Like their view of the world is different than perhaps an advisor who's been doing this for 30, 40 years, and his clients just kind of want like security and income, right? Mm-hmm. So we very much listen to the voice of the retail community, and we try to deliver, what we think the market wants.
Excellent. All right. So can you give a brief explanation on how the credit call spreads will work to benefit the ETF's dividends? Because some people know options more than others, and I just love a brief explanation if that's doable.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess the easiest way to think about it is we're selling, a shorter term, so like, a couple of days till expiry, something like this. It's covered call basically. So we're just capturing income from that. So that's how part of the income comes. And then the other side is like the spread on caps the cap, right? So when you sell a covered call, it's like up to the strike price of, you're going to get the upside to the strike price of the actual option. What the spread does is it kind of like unlocks the upside so that we're grabbing additional upside of MicroStrategy on half the position as well. So it's just, selling options for income basically.
Awesome. As simple as that. Yeah, that's great. Very cool. Very cool. Can we expect more weekly dividend ETFs from Defiance in the future?
Well, I think you guys will tell us that, right? I think if MST is popular and it continues to grow and trade the way that it has out of the gates, I think we would be interested in, just exploring all sorts of new product ideas. But the answer to that question, like for us, is always like, we're always thinking about bringing something, good to the market and trying to think about good ideas and new ideas. And some of them hit, some of them don't, but we're always trying to innovate.
Excellent. And I have seen that because I made a video on MST, just kind of the announcement video. I believe I posted it yesterday, and it's one of my top performers so far. It's trending quickly because people are searching. I looked it up on Twitter, and yeah, it is definitely trending. And MSTR has that reputation as well. So people love that. And it's really cool that you guys are listening to the public on that. I think that's absolutely phenomenal and different, different than what we've seen done, 10, 20 years ago. And so speaking on MSTR and Bitcoin, do you have any thoughts one way or another on Bitcoin specifically for the next 10 to 15 years? Are you super pro Bitcoin? Are you a little more hesitant? Can you give us just a little breakdown?
Yeah, I was super bullish on Bitcoin. I was one of those people that was saying, I do a lot of media stuff, and I like a couple of years ago, I was saying I'd be surprised if Bitcoin didn't hit 100K in the next couple of years. It hit 100K. I wouldn't be surprised if it, double, tripled that. You can kind of see we're launching so much around, we have Riot, right? We have now, the MicroStrategy products and things like this. So yeah, I'm very bullish on Bitcoin. I think that there's a lot of room to go there, a lot of room to grow there. And so when you look at a stock like MicroStrategy, what it is basically like if you kind of like run a correlation between the two or just like chart the performance, MicroStrategy tends to on its own be a leveraged version of Bitcoin, right? And so we put leverage on top of that. It's all, the success of MicroStrategy is very much dependent on Bitcoin. So we are, bullish on Bitcoin, I would say. Yeah.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. I'm not the biggest crypto nerd. I've born and raised stock market, and so crypto has been new to me for sure. But I do like to hear that because I do think it is different. I think it's more futuristic, and so I think I have a lot of, I would say, older audience members that are investors that are very interested in it and don't necessarily know too much about it, but are interested in learning more. And so, because they see where the market's going, they have a lot of experience in seeing these market trends. And so I think it's really cool. I think it'll be interesting, 10 years down the line to look back and go, where are we? And when it comes to MST, you probably, bless you, couldn't have launched at I'd say a better time. We've seen Bitcoin starting to run back up. We had I've been tracking a couple ETFs that have been coming out during this kind of downtrend, which is unfortunate, to launch at a harder time in the market, but things are moving back up now. And with Bitcoin going up, I'm excited to see the first couple months, specifically of MST in the market. It should be amazing. One question,
for sure. It's definitely going to be a market trender, right? So I think like if there's good news about tariff and equities rally, you'll kind of see crypto doing well and MicroStrategy doing well.
Definitely. And that is one thing I am curious about, because again, I've traded options myself, but I'm not the best. It's not my bread and butter, I would say. And so if we see a red week or even a red month for MSTR, things pull back, it's natural, happens in the market. How is that going to affect the dividend amount?
It depends on the volatility, right? If there's a lot of volatility during that period, then, we would in theory capture more income during those periods of time. And it's a great question because, what would happen, right? So the ETF normally would be down because the stock is down or the market's down or whatever. But in this case, it would be down less than, as if it didn't have the income at all. So for example, like, there was a day, I think it was actually day one, right? There was a period of time where I was just looking at it and MicroStrategy was down, 0.5%. MSTX, which is the 2X levered fund, was down 1%. And MST was down like 0.84. So the reason for that is that option hedged a little bit of the, you get that income and it kind of cushions you a little bit. So it's almost like a hedged levered ETF in a way, when you think about it that way.
Yeah. That's really cool. I didn't really think about it in that sense,
yeah,
but
it's not like the, like pure purpose of it, but it does. And all the income products do that, right? In a sense, if the stock is down and you're getting that big cushion of income, you're kind of, helping your total return in the end there.
Definitely. Well, awesome. All right. So I guess you kind of already answered this one. Can we expect more leveraged ETFs from our favorite stocks? Which you did say retail, depending on how this one performs and whatnot, will have an impact, because there's some really popular stocks like NVIDIA, that have also kind of boomed during this time period. So I'd love to hear you just speak on that. And is leverage more the way you're going? Or I guess you kind of have been with Defiance and your leverage. But yeah, please speak on that.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely, so there are a bunch of them out there. We're probably not going to do like too many Me Too products, right? Because there's a bunch of levered NVIDIAs out there. There's a bunch of Teslas out there and stuff like that. So, but we're always looking for the stock that isn't there. Like, so MicroStrategy was one that, we kind of anchored to because it wasn't there. And we thought it was a good one. Super Microcomputers is another one. We have a Broadcom one. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to play in that space, but we, as I said, like, we're always trying to innovate with products. So you'll see different, completely different types of products from us, I would expect in coming years.
Excellent. All right. So I did hear, I'm not sure if it was a prospectus. I had comments discussing the current weekly payers from Defiance, WDTE, IWMY, and QQQY. Are they going back to monthly payers or are they staying weeklies?
They're going to stay weeklies.
Oh, perfect. I heard I usually get like some spam comments or vast comments, but people probably misunderstood. So that is excellent news, because those are in my weekly dividend account. And we've been tracking those for, I don't even know how long. Personal favorite, WDTE. It's been a really good performer in the account so far, even during the bad months, actually holding up quite well, which I was very excited about. Okay, and this question, if I'm allowed to keep this in, do we have any news on the daily dividend ETFs?
Can't really disclose where we're at with that because we're kind of in the quiet period with that, but that's something that we filed for. We'll put it that way. And
we're still waiting to hear back. Yeah,
still waiting to hear back.
Excellent. I still get daily comments because when it was first discussed, I talked about it on a video, and I still get comments about it, and people are just interested. And of course, I'm one of them for sure. Few more questions here. How is AI going to impact ETF investing? And is Defiance going to utilize AI features for its ETFs, whether it be the option side or the leverage side?
I mean, we use AI every day for different things. AI is a great research tool. I think everyone's kind of, picked up on that, right? So we often challenge our views and do a lot of research on top of the research that we do from kind of like our usual, path. In terms of like ETFs run by AI or investing in AI, I think a lot of that is definitely going to happen. Like, I think that, as an advice, like for advisors who invest in different products, I'd be surprised if they weren't kind of, challenging their own models with AI and saying like, build a better one, or does this work or whatever. I think it's more that side of the world right now. But for us, like we're always like, one of the components that we sometimes look at is, for example, with the income funds, right? We'll kind of like use AI to scour comments and trends and things that, people are saying about income products and themes that they want to see. And, like quantum, like which company, spoke about quantum that we don't know about a significant amount of time during earnings calls. Like we're just using it as a additional resource right now. We're not like powered by AI or anything at this point, but I think on the investing side, you're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah.
And there's definitely some ETFs out there that are just purely picked by AI. So it's, I think it's, it's definitely something that's going to come into our world for sure.
Yeah, it seems like every part of the world now is impacted, and I can only imagine further down the line as it gets more advanced. And I am curious too how it plays a role when it comes to like sentiment in the market, and because it can define a lot of the factors, but is it going to be able to process the human emotion side of things and whatnot? So could be
I heard it this morning. Actually, it's so funny because I was like, it's like before work, but I was in the gym and I was listening to people talk about this, and they were like, they were watching a TV show, I guess, at one of the financial outlets and stuff. And they were like, do you think AI will make us live forever? Like, can it change our bodies so that we live forever? Like figure some way out to, so it's just super interesting. Some people think it's our demise and other people think it's the best thing that ever happened to us. So we'll see. It's probably somewhere in the middle, I'm sure, is usually how it goes, right?
Probably. Well, awesome. All right. Final question for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to the expense ratios for funds, and this is for me as well as the audience, because I don't know how those things are set. So what parameters go into making the expense ratio higher or lower? Because retail, I have noticed a lot of my comments talking about how expense ratios consistently are going up. And my father's an investor, very more old-fashioned, and he used to talk about the early ETFs and how cheap everything was. And of course, everything grows in price. And when you're, utilizing some of the processes like QTUM, it's difficult to do, and how it's more modern. But could you speak on the expense ratio side of things, just so we have a better idea of them?
Yeah, sure. So Quantum is cheap, actually. That one's 40 basis points and 6G is 30 basis points. And like the ETFs that your dad's talking about, some of them are free, like Vanguard ETFs are basically free. It all comes down to complexity. So the reason we charge more is because like MST, for example, you have to manage equity derivatives trading, the stock trading, you have to manage the options trading, the kind of the rebalances, the spreads and things like this. So there's a lot of like very active portfolio management, several trading desks across this product, things like this. It's just, it costs money to run certain products, right? And so the more complex they are, the higher the fee will be. But I would say, to that point, like, if you're just investing in a product that is index-based and there's no special sauce, like, probably not S&P, but say it's just pretty close to something like that. And it's just that, like, you shouldn't pay a lot of money. You should look at the one that, you should check out the performance and pick the cheaper one, because, passive index tracking, like, we never charged a lot for that because it's not that hard to do, right? But levered funds are quite complex to run. So. Excellent.
Awesome. So much good information. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you'd like to say to the investing community?
Yeah, keep us in mind and keep giving us your opinions, and we love it, and thank you for checking out our ETFs, and glad to be on your radar somehow in some small way. So it's cool to be engaged.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel, Sylvia. It's been amazing. Maybe we'll do a follow-up in some time or so if we can catch you. I know you're very busy, but we'd love to see 6 months down the line how MST is doing, and all of the other Defiance ETFs as well.
Sounds great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.